for the morning as well, Mr. Dibyajyoti Sen joining us today.
Good morning, everybody. So today we're going to cover future-proof security, predicting the cyber threats before they strike us. This is our forward-looking statement and disclaimer. So the agenda for today is four-pronged. We're going to look at the threat landscape, what's happening around us. Second is the cyber imperatives and AI-driven innovation. Then how do you cement your cybersecurity framework? And last but not the least, how Visa cybersecurity drives our mission and strategy. Moving on to the first topic, what are the big shifts we've seen in 2024? So 41% organizations have experienced AI, privacy, and security incidents. That's a lot. It is across all industries, including the financial sector. 95% have adjusted their security postures, their cybersecurity strategy, owing to these kind of shifts. That's almost everyone. 65% of the organizations use AI in their cyber strategies. Again, that's 2/3 of the population. And lastly, this is a staggering number, $212 billion of investment is what is going to happen, predicted to happen in 2025, just behind cybersecurity investment. Now let's look at a few predictions for 2025. I know we are deep into the year already, but insider threats, supply chain attacks, and AI engineered threats are expected to increase, which we are seeing that kind of a posture already. Right in the middle, you have ransomware, hacktivism, and DDoS attacks, which are expected to remain stable. And at the bottom, you have quantum computing, agentic commerce, agentic AI, as you call it, and increasing zero-day attacks with increased regulations around all of this, all expected to increase. If we move on to a few key threats, as you see on the screen, we're going to talk about 6 of them. There are many more. First one is cyber espionage. These are nation-state-led sponsored attacks, which target critical infrastructure of a country. We'll then talk about Gen AI threats. Insider threats, very interesting in terms of how this has shaped up over the last few years. DDoS attack, very familiar, very common. It's been there for a number of decades, and it still troubles us. Ransomware, and last but not the least, cybercrime, more orchestrated, organized cybercrime. So let's deep dive on these topics one by one. In terms of the espionage, as I mentioned, they are nation-state-led. You have snippets of some news, public media information right at the bottom, top right of the screen. We're talking about Salt Typhoon as an example. They have been compromising telecom networks, the large ones like the Verizon, AT&T, and so on and so forth. We've had the Volt Typhoon, which has compromised one of the largest telecom authorities in Singapore, which is Singtel, and 30% of their Cisco routers were affected globally. What do we take away from this? One, there is persistent threat to communications, infrastructure, energy, transportation sectors, which is predominantly the government sector. Needs timely patching, which is something we are not doing in a very disciplined manner. The entire life cycle management of critical device needs to be looked at, and any kind of law enforcement support can be leveraged for taking down such ISPs. Moving on to Gen AI, I think the most spoken about topic. This is about weaponization by threat actors. So just like we use AI to protect our ecosystem, AI is available to our perpetrators and threat actors to leverage as well. Let's take a few examples here. Ghost GPT. It started in Jan of this year, and it is an uncensored AI chatbot which is leveraged for creation of malware, phishing, and exploiting development on the technology side. It's marketed via Telegram, one of the channels we also use, similar to WhatsApp. Very easy to disseminate and distribute. We're talking about ransomware campaigns in the form of Blackbuster, if you've heard about it. Again, they've used ChatGPT to draft fraudulent communication and rewrite malware. So you're basically upgrading malware using ChatGPT. The codes, they write on their own. And then we have more examples like Encrypt Hub, again leveraging ChatGPT for vulnerability assessment, research, and so on and so forth. What are the takeaways from here? I think one of the topics we have later in the day is in terms of governance of AI. So we're talking about the urgent need to control, regulate this environment, to mitigate the malicious use of AI. Second is increasing sophistication and personalization of fraud and phishing campaigns. And third is the Gen AI tools create lower barriers for less skilled actors. Again, we've got a snippet from a public domain on the top, talks about 47% increase of AI usage by malicious actors in 2025 itself. We move on to insider threat. Now, this is the one which I was saying is pretty interesting. We're aware of the regular kind of insider threats, which is more about your own employees probably clicking on links and allowing some kind of malicious Trojans, etc., to come into the system. Here we're talking about well-planned set of people who pose as employees of an organization. If you see the third bullet on the bottom, it talks about they're earning in excess of $300,000, and 90% of that compensation is actually funneled back into the regimes they come from. This has come from situations of remote working, as we all do today, a lot of work from home after COVID, and people have started hiring talent across the globe because you don't need to be sitting in the office anymore. But what has that caused is what is up in your screen. It has led to much more data breaches for those organizations. It has led to IP theft, which is intellectual property theft, and legal violations as well, especially being cross-border. Interestingly enough, one of the nation states involved here actually went into analyzing the weapons of mass destruction and missile programs. So the extent of damage is not just limited to financials, it goes way beyond that. If we move on to DDoS, I think it's a familiar topic, but it is not the DDoS we used to see 10, 15 years ago. This has also become highly sophisticated. You see there's an increase in L7 and L3 attacks targeting that. L3 is on the network space, L7 is on the application space, and they're targeting banks, large financial institutions across Europe and Israel. They're also adopting adaptive tactics, shifting between network and application layer, which is the L7 and L3 I spoke about, and there are links, clear links to activist groups, which is Shalit Gang, SG, and Dynet. What is their objective? Disruption of online banking services, bringing down the financial system, targeting a specific financial institution. And what is needed to control this is what we call multi-layered defense, MFA, perimeter security, and more adaptive mitigation technologies. If we move on to the next topic, I think topic of interest again, ransomware. You'll see the word RAAS, ransomware as a service. This is available on the dark web as a toolkit. So you don't have to be an expert to be able to perpetrate an attack like this. It is all available with the help of AI. And it's packaged and sold on the dark web, just like you would go to a shopping cart to buy clothes. As simple as that. 200 plus victims were impacted. And this incident, which is the ransom hub, was actually hostile taken over by another entity called Dragon Force, who are actually creating a lot of havoc in the industry. They have morphed what you call ransomware as a service into what they call a cartel, almost like a drug cartel. And they launched Ransom Bay. You've heard about eBay, we have Ransom Bay as well. So it's become very, very easy for perpetrators to basically buy off-the-shelf, I would say, malicious products and just target organizations, banks, institutions alike. Then we have Scattered Spider, which is another group. We will talk about them in the next slide, which is more orchestrated cyber attacks. And they hit a lot of UK retailers in 2025. What are the impact and key takeaways from this? The increasing unpredictability and organized groups infiltrating and fragmenting the brand. What is needed is importance of robust threat intelligence and incident response. Incidents can happen, but how fast are you able to respond to that incident? How well you're able to do the containment is what is the key. This is the one I was talking about, Scattered Spider. They have targeted North American and UK retailers, the likes of Marks & Spencer's, Harrods, the brands you're aware of, with the Dragon Force ransomware. The tactics are very simple. Social engineering, they impersonate as help desk. They do SIM swapping, which is basically swapping the SIM on your phone so that the second factor authentication can come onto the new device, deployment of ransomware, and so on and so forth. And there were some links to this scattered spider for some very large insurance companies also. So the impact and takeaways include shifting target towards Linux and EXSI systems, need for enhancing employee training awareness, and multi-factor authentication to counter these threats of social engineering. We'll move on to section 2. These are some key imperatives of cybersecurity and AI-driven innovation. The 4 imperatives are proactive threat intelligence. The whole theme of today is moving from reactive to proactive. So invest continuously in cybersecurity. Ensure you have the right intelligence. Without intelligence, the job is only half done. And then preempt evolving threats. The second is what we call resilience and defense in depth. This is a layered security approach focusing on every single layer of the cybersecurity framework, includes robust patch management, includes identity verification, what we call IAM, endpoint protection of the devices, and last but not the least, network segmentation. If you segment your network, even if there's an attack, it is controlled within one environment, and it's probably easier to manage that, and you have your rest of your systems up and running. Human factor mitigation. This, as per me, is the weakest link we have in our ecosystem. Whether it is customers of a bank or it is employees of an organization, they are the weakest link. It's easier to fool people than to fool machines, so it is said. So what do we need here? One is employee training, which I guess all of us do a lot. But the training needs to come with some practical applications. Some of the smart organizations actually build and send phishing mail to their own employees to see what they are clicking on. And that click rate tells you how that education and awareness is actually disseminated within the organization. Second is awareness of phishing, the same thing I said. You bait your own employees through internal campaigns, and you train and educate them in a more targeted manner. Enforce strong authentication controls. So basically, when you're getting into systems which move money or has very sensitive PII information, ensure the layers of authentication is just not a simple password. There is a second or a third layer of authentication before somebody can access that. And then robust access controls, like who, need-based access. And last but not the least, again, going on to the theme of reactive to proactive, is prepare for the unexpected. This can happen from anywhere. Just as we are thinking about controls, trust me, the guys on the other side of the line are thinking even further. So ongoing vigilance, respond to the smallest of threats, ensure very proactive incident response, and assume it is unpredictable and it can come from anywhere. So that's the 4 strategic imperatives. Now let's look at what are the AI-driven innovation we can bring into this to combat some of those, to supplement some of those imperatives. The first one is improve productivity. The amount of alerts or signals that you get from your cyber defense mechanisms, all the tools and capabilities and your security operations center is immense. You have to leverage AI, not eliminating the human factor, to make that much more productive so it saves you time. And unlock developer productivity. This is where you write codes to supplement and strengthen your cyber framework. A lot of this coding can be automated using AI, so that's about improving productivity. The second pillar is advanced cyber defense using Gen AI, which is generative AI. This improves the efficiency and efficacy of your preventive and detective controls. The second is embed artificial intelligence into your security operations and SSDLC, which is the software development lifecycle, and align it to the NIST framework. And last but not the least, we've got the secure AI development, meaning secure your supply chains as and when it is applicable to you, defend against adversarial threats, and manage the complexities of the AI management lifecycle, including its governance thereon. The imperatives for every organization in some shape or form, the top 5, is extreme shift left with AI to enhance developer experience, meaning you're going left-hand side where you're building the foundational capabilities, leverage AI to do that development. Second, leverage AI and agentic AI. This is basically bots which enable productivity, which give a lot of boost and uplift for the organization, reduces toil, and allows you to use the skill sets of those employees into more productive areas where they're needed. Separate noise from signal. You get alerts every day, whether it's fraud monitoring, cyber monitoring, there is a lot of alerts. What we term as noise is the false alerts, or what we call false positive. And a signal is something which is really something one needs to work on. So you can use Gen AI to separate noise from signal. That is something we have to strive towards, because this is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. You cannot be multiplying your workforce to support the number of alerts you will generate over time. Enable AI governance and guardrails. The more AI you bring into your ecosystem, you need to have a certain level of guardrails, you need to have a certain level of controls, and you need to have a certain level of governance. Individual organizations are running it, and there are global establishments which also drive some governance framework which need to be adopted in some shape or form across your organization. And last but not the least, again, quantum computing readiness. We have a few slides on quantum computing. I will double-click on that topic when we reach that slide. We have a short video.
Will flood e-commerce merchants with transactions to uncover valid payment account data for fraudulent use. This is what's called an enumeration attack. Let's observe this happening on online transactions in real time. These vertical bars represent merchants. Blue is for approved, red for declined. Unusually high declines and transaction volumes catch our attention. Employing Visa Account Attack Intelligence, using generative AI components, and powered by VisaNet to assign a risk score in real time, we spot an account enumeration attack. High decline percentages indicate that bad actors are testing credit card entry fields online. We delve deeper into a cryptocurrency exchange, revealing numerous transactions from multiple bank IDs. Attackers exploited enumeration across various merchants, then cashed out at exchanges like this. Immediate alerts to banks and acquirers, along with blocking unauthorized activity, lead to fund recovery globally. Visa's real-time account attack intelligence score reduces financial risk, curbs fraud, and provides early warning against suspicious activity, safeguarding merchants and consumers.
Okay, we head on to the third section, which is cementing your cyber framework. Critical section, this gives you insights in terms of what you should be thinking about, if not already. So jumping on, the core and basic principle of cybersecurity, I'm sure all of you are familiar with it, we call it the zero trust architecture. Principle, verify, and then trust. So trust nothing in a bottom line. So verify and trust means authenticate every instruction, every interaction. Once you gain trust, then allow it to progress. Fundamental principle. Limit the blast radius, meaning containment. If you have an event, do not allow it to spread. Figure out a way, and it's an analogy from a fire kind of situation. When you have a fire somewhere, one of the first port of call that a fireman would take is to limit that radius so that the fire doesn't spread. The same principle applies when it comes to cyber. So containment, isolate the event. Then we talk about least and JIT, which is just-in-time privilege, meaning give access and entitlements on a need-to-know/need-to-use or a business use case. Do not just provide granular level of access controls to everybody and anybody in the organization. Implement password-less authentication and more adaptive access controls. Continuous security efficacy. There is no such situation where you build in a control and you forget about it. Everything is evolving at such a rapid pace, you have to go back and continuously look at your controls and keep upgrading them. Some of them may have become defunct or obsolete, and some of them may require enhancements. And continuous monitoring and analytics. Analytics, data is something which not only from a cyber perspective for any business, whether it is marketing, profitability, risk, data is everything today. One is the data protection element, which we will talk about separately, but the other is monitoring the traffic and orchestrating all that information in one place smartly enough so you can basically, what we say, join the dots, and then do real-time analytics to detect any kind of anomalous activity or behavior and patterns. So data analytics is critical and essential for cyber fraud scenarios. Let's look at the second principle, which is the augmented AI defense, the defense in depth, as I was talking about. Got 4 AI agent categories here. AI to perform investigation steps. So when you have an event, you typically do a set of investigations. And the impact to the Security Operations Center is to reduce MMTA. This is the mean time to acknowledge, mean time to investigate, mean time, kind of all the metrics that you would measure typically in a SOC environment. Then you have summarized investigation for L1 analyst. L1 is your first line of defense, the analyst who will touch that alert the moment it is generated. But instead of having that person to go through every single driver which brought that alert on the table, summarize it leveraging agentic AI so he or she has all the information at their disposal to take a quicker decision. So basically empower and upskill the analyst. The third is recommended actions and next steps. We're not saying that the action should be automated through AI, but there are smart ways to embed playbooks or situational actions, meaning if this happens, then do this. If that happens, then do that. That can be embedded within your agentic AI system to prompt the human. You see the word human always in the loop. You can never supersede human intelligence, at least so I believe. But you can enable the human to do it faster, smarter, quicker. This is where agentic AI comes into play. The last one, enable interaction of the analyst with the AI to collect additional information. When you're investigating matters, investigating cases, sometimes what you see on the screen or see on that alert is probably not enough. Use that agentic AI to fish extra information that you may need to enable or take that decision. And this brings about what you see on the right-hand side of the page is what we call a transformational change. It enables the analyst to perform the task quicker, delivering around 60% productivity. It reduces false positives, so you're not wasting your time on alerts which did not require so much of time to investigate. It reduces analyst fatigue. There is continuous learning. The AI program is built in such a way it is embedded with neural networks and other kind of learning, so it gets better over time as long as you feed it with the right amount of information to learn. So it's called the self-healing capability. And then we have the predictive threat intelligence, the proactive defense, and orchestrating all of this information all together. I'll move on to the next section. I spoke a little bit about data protection in the earlier sections. We're talking about quantum-resistant cryptographic algorithms. Very complex terminology, but what we are essentially saying here is quantum computing is here, it's knocking at our doors. For the good, for the bad, for the ugly. But once we are investing in our cyber capabilities, we need to ensure that these are resistant to quantum computing over time. Because if you invest in something today, and then in comes quantum computing over the next 5 years, if it cracks your ecosystem, then your investment is gone. The next is future-proofing your critical infrastructure and supply chains wherever it's applicable. Every organization has a set of critical infrastructure. In the banking environment, we call it in some places crown jewels, your core banking system, your core card systems, which houses all of the customer data and many other peripheral systems. So future-proof them to ensure that those critical infrastructure will be safe and secure even if we have a situation which creates breaches. Then we're talking about long-term confidentiality of sensitive information. Basically, we classify information into restricted, confidential, internal, public, and so on and so forth. And within that, there is a subset of personally identifiable information, which we call PII. So again, the sensitive information should be encrypted with the best protocols available and ensuring that that remains longer-term protected and encrypted within your ecosystem. Compliance to security standards, as I said, there's a lot of data protection standards I think Bhushan spoke about what is coming in Sri Lanka in terms of the PDPA and so on and so forth. So there will be standards which will come globally, and even if it's not there in your country, you should borrow progressive regulations from other markets. And then cloud, service provider, confidential computing. Once it's on the cloud, we spoke about it yesterday in the CEO forum, there is no certainty and assurance exactly who has access to that information unless you've really got a very secure cloud and you've validated all the protocols and controls. Now, let's look at some statistics, which is on the right-hand side of the page. To crack a 2048-bit RSA with the classical tools, what we have today, it will take 300 trillion years. But if you use quantum computing, that comes down to 10 seconds. So that's why I said, if this comes into our lives in the ugly way, this is what is in store for us. So hence, building our controls, which is quantum resistant. We're talking about qubits, which is the measure of the quantum. 1180 qubits is the largest quantum computing system available today, and I'm sure this is going to evolve over time. It's got a 99.9 accuracy, and the accuracy required for every one of 4099 qubits is, we had to put in a lot of decimals, 99.9999. It'll take about 6 to 8 years, it's a prediction of course, for quantum safe adoption. And we're looking at a 10-year horizon from now for the essential cryptography which we use today to secure our ecosystem to be broken. So it's a matter of time, and the time is ticking. How do you future-proof your cyber tools? Just summarizing what we just spoke about. Software-defined technologies including agile cryptography and cloud security. Adaptive defense powered by AI, Gen AI, and all its variants to enable, and automation of SOC using the agentic AI frameworks. We will move into section 4, where we talk about Visa cybersecurity mission and strategy. Very simple 4 principles: prevent, detect, respond, recover. So prevent attacks and incidents. Once you're able to detect an incident, ensure that the containment is as real-time as possible and as automatic as possible. Respond to attacks consistently, and wherever there is damage, recover and restore the business processes. Some stats on the right. We have blocked 66 million attacks targeting APIs and web applications. We have blocked like on an average per month. 10 million email threats blocked on an average per month. 4.7 million plus actionable vulnerabilities we received in FY24. This is in our network and our ecosystem. And we blocked a staggering $40 billion of attempted fraudulent payment volumes across the globe through our ecosystem in FY23 itself. This is our strategy. It's centered around the continued implementation of zero trust architecture, which we spoke about, combined with a pessimistic design, do not assume anything, and defense in depth principles. And we rely on these 5 key elements for strategy. The first being talent, people. Given the complex and the growing complexities of the threat landscape, we require smarter skill sets in this AI-driven world. So we actually invest in people and intelligent people who can handle the future. Second is the zero trust architecture. Again, pessimistic design and defense in depth principles. We went through all of this in a lot of detail in the previous slides. AI augmented defense, it is here for us. We better use it well. Future-proof your defense. Focus on adaptive defense leveraging Gen AI. We spoke about data protection as well. Again, adopt quantum-resistant technologies and techniques so that you are future-ready and future-proof. And your tools and capabilities and platforms should be future-proof as well in terms of integrating adaptable tools and evolve with emerging threats. That last phrase is very important, evolve with emerging threats. There is nothing which is static in this world. We have another video to talk about our practice. So,
Cybersecurity and protecting the ecosystem is a core part of our mission. The tricky part is fraud is an ever-evolving challenge. In the US alone, we blocked over $14 billion of presumed fraud. It's a 30% increase from the prior year. It's core to what we do, and it's one of the reasons that we're launching this cybersecurity advisory practice, just continue to help our clients in this area. Protecting the ecosystem from fraud or cybersecurity is just what we've been doing and always have done and always will do.
That's what I had. Thank you very much.